Get to know all your favorite VRChat DJs all in one place. This is VRC DJ Live.
Well, welcome everybody, and happy Thursday to you all in chat. It's very refreshing to have a lot of people a part of this program, especially being here on time, so kudos to you. And welcome to VRC DJ Live, a one-of-a-kind of show here in VRChat, where we not only get to interview a lot of our DJ friends and the people that make our community so great as they are, but we also want to take highlights to the VJs, the staff, the promoters, the clubs, everybody, even the people that go and watch DJs. Have a very fun time and all the different events that we got going on. So everybody's very special a part of this program, especially here in the month of November. And again, welcome to the show, of course. And today is very special because we've got a lot of things going up in the next couple of weeks, and we're going to have a lot of involvement with our next group and our next club that we're going to be discussing with right now. They're not necessarily into DJing themselves, but more of a coordinated team to help us DJs kind of gain traction, providing all sorts of multimedia presence in and out of VRChat. And fun fact, not only, again, like I said, is going to be involved in VKet this year, but also had a bit of a presence in HorrorCon. Please welcome Skoot and Ministry Promotions. Hi, Skoot.
Hello.
Good to have you part of the program. And, we had been kind of talking a little bit back and forth of VKet, and there's plenty of things to talk about with VKet, especially because it is coming up in a couple of weeks. And you sent me just a boatload of information to kind of talk a little bit about it. But one of the things that I wanted to just really test you on, and I know we were talking a little bit about it before the stream, which was, I love the fact that Ministry exists, but I still feel like not too many people see you guys. I feel like you're kind of hiding in the background a little bit, but is that kind of how you've always wanted Ministry to be?
Yeah. I think the strongest promotion is ambiguity. And we're never there to be in the front or the limelight. You'll never see like a big M in the middle of the poster. You'll always see us in the corner. We look best when you do best, and if we're involved, obviously, it looks good that we helped. So that's kind of our whole shtick, is to make sure that you get promotion and you have the things you need.
It's kind of a nice little hidden talent, just because a lot of it involves, again, promotion. You want to make sure that you're promoting a lot of people, and even coming onto this show, and we had a nice little a pal around of just like, wait a minute, so I'm promoting you, and then you're going to promote me back for me promoting you, kind of a deal. And
we both point.
Constantly having a back and forth with, all right, who's going to be promoted the most on this channel? But everyone in chat, welcome to the program. Of course, if you're new to this program, it's live. We're doing it live, and we're going to be sitting with Ministry Promotions for the next 2 hours, just talking about all sorts of things that they've been kind of cooking up, as well as things that the many questions that we've had in the community. And that also includes questions from you guys in the chat. Feel free to drop some of your most dire questions, the most important questions you want to ask Skoot right now. I know you could probably get a hold of them off stream at any point in time, or even find them in VRChat, but any question at all concerning DJing, promotions, how to be a part of the group, even like, I don't know, favorite hot dog condiment. I mean, I don't want to say that we obviously want to go down that route, but there are some goofy, with goofy questions come goofy answers. So feel free to drop some of your favorite questions in chat. And as we kind of kick things off a little bit, I want to revisit what had happened in the past couple of weeks with Rift, and the fact that they celebrated a 2-year anniversary, and with Ministry involved with that poster was just so outrageous with how many logos was a part of that. So tell us a little bit about a process like that with Rift having their 2-year anniversary with all sorts of teams involved.
So Rift is, they were one of our first partners when we first got going, and Aztec first got going. We met not too long after, and we both kind of had like our back straight talking to the other one, not realizing where we were at. It's been really powerful working with them. Rift works really, really hard to make sure that whoever they work with is involved with whatever they're promoting or doing. For example, if you go to Rift during or outside of an event, there's a computer to the left, and every single DJ, dancer, club, and staff has an entry that he has programmed into that computer. So over time, naturally, you get this kind of dossier of their lore and people they've worked with. And that ties into what they call nexus events, where he takes like a cube map shader. And the whole thing about Rift is they're this like research team that found these audio reactive rocks. Get it? And so they book DJs, throw parties to kind of study these rocks. And I'll let him get into more of that. But basically, as time goes on, these rifts kind of happen and dimensions clash. And you'll see a venue that they partner with in Rift, and then at another event, you'll see elements of Rift floating around in that venue. So for their 2-year anniversary, seeing all of these teams on board, it makes a lot of sense. They also partner with Calibrate, so we shared the platforms dancing with them, and that was a lot of fun. But seeing them hit a 2-year anniversary is a little surreal because we also just hit ours, and it doesn't feel like it at all. Rift has done an insane job at connecting people. They were a community partner with Sly Fest the last time around. They got us in for one of the after parties. They were involved with the gathering. Absolutely a team you should check out, and they're Quest compatible, so they're definitely here for tomorrow as well.
I know it's a lot of fun to see Rift and hearing a lot of things about the World Rift and the type of events that they provide and the experience overall. That whole, when you spawn to even getting to those floating rocks in that environment is so surreal. Do you find that a lot of the venues coming up in 2025 might even try to feature more elements like that? Or where do you kind of see a lot of the worlds and a lot of the clubs are kind of headed in the new year?
I'll say I would really hope so. A lot of people who come in from the IRL scene who have found refuge in VRChat, they learn how shaders and mats work, and it's cool to walk into a hyper-realistic arena, but it's also cool that we can fly in space or have a venue in the ocean. And I'm hoping we see more of that, because as much as we all love to have like a really nice grungy rave underground setup, I've seen enough concrete in VRChat, and I think Rift does a really good job of keeping the, like, you don't realize it, but just like, those closet venues where it's like small, so it feels like, it's music focused, but it's like open because of like the sky map and the shaders and all of this other stuff. So I would assume that even while keeping with that like hyper realistic format, we're going to start seeing a lot more creativity in terms of atmosphere and environmental artists coming forward and working with these, either producers or DJs or people who are making venues with an IRL background, trying to create crowd management structure in the venue, and then teaming that with someone who's like, yeah, but what if we had like a 500-foot cat girl helping you DJ on the planets, right? Like,
I find that really unique too, just because of the fact that everyone has a venue that they call home, and they have a venue that they really enjoy. And then you have two avenues. One where you have a bunch of people that are trying to rectify what it's like to be in a real club and kind of give you that scenario. But then people are just like totally sci-fi, and they just want to go some other place, some other planet, do some other thing that they can't averagely do or actively do. And it's one of the many different things of, you're gonna sit there and think like, well, I never really thought of it like that. Especially because we are in the future. Why are we, if we really want to go to the bar, we'll go to the bar. But like, who says you can't disco on a planet? So, I mean, that's kind of a very fun thing. A lot of great questions coming in down the chat. I'm very excited for the most involvement with you guys. I know one of the questions kind of stemmed together, and again, this is kind of a tough topic to start our conversation with, seeing that we're going to be here for 2 hours. One of those conversations goes like, where do you see the VRC scene going in the next 2 years? Kind of a broad question. I will say, you can't answer that now if you want. We can kind of talk a little bit more about it down the road. Do you want to just kind of quickly answer that, where you think quickly where it would go?
So just generally, like, how I see like the music scene going, or like VR as a whole?
I would assume that the question is kind of a little bit of both, because I know we continue to talk about the boom of 2022. That's what I kind of call it, the boom of 2022 as far as the DJ scene goes, but a little bit of both, just because just recently we've been able to get everything that we've wanted to in VR, and as well as what could the DJ scene be looking like, even in 1 year.
Well, I think specifically for the DJ scene, overall, as hardware becomes cheaper and people become more educated, I come from like a corporate IT background, and I used to do a lot of telecom, and it's really fascinating how there's like stigmas around older people not getting technology, but then like it was always the old dude with like a Note 4 coming in just to test your knowledge about the chips inside of it when I was at Verizon. So with the DJ scene, I think AR is going to play a really big factor in the growth of the DJ scene in VR. As headsets get more condensed, or when phones become more capable of plugging us in, especially now that we have iOS and Android support for VRChat, I think we're always going to have the hardliners like ourselves who love to get completely in the full body and just be in here, but being able to have a pair of goggles on that you can, now you're in the VR venue, now you're looking at who's in front of you. That's where I think we're going to see a lot of the DJ stuff go, because with right now the club scene is actually a very small part about VRChat and any other platform. It's one of the biggest reasons people come here, but the RP communities, the creative communities, though, that's where the majority of real estate actually is, and they're not the loudest, so it's easy not to feel like that. And as these communities do more and need more, let's pretend the devs weren't DJs and didn't like have any heart in this. They're still gonna by proxy start doing things based on the noise made from inside of the scene. So I think that we are gonna see some growth for the DJ scene based on that. But it's definitely going to be accelerated by AR, being able to have multiple venues in front of you at the click of a button live.
I think this is a really good transition as we continue to talk more about a lot of the promotion factor of ministry promotions. And one of the things that I want to try to break the fourth wall on with you is kind of to take a look through your eyes on where you see ministry promotions, even in the past 2 years. And where do you think a lot of the people in our community see ministry promotions that aren't a part of your group, and they see you constantly doing collabs with a lot of these groups?
So I'll do my best on that, because for me it's kind of surreal. A lot of the times my nose is stuck to the keyboard, and so I'll look down for a few months and look up and be like, oh crap. But ministry, we started just off of grabbing, years of expertise that, things that worked, things that didn't, and kind of just plugging them out. Ministry wasn't started on purpose, which I can get into later when you ask about it, but I definitely see ministry as something that is ever growing. Though from when we started to today, if you remove all the fancy jargon and all the cool things we did, at its core, at the beginning of the week, I go to a bunch of dancers or DJs or media teams, and I go, hey, there's a cool thing you should go to. And then I go to that cool thing, be it like a con or a club, and I'm like, hey, there's some cool performers that want to show up. And then in the middle of the week, I just kind of sweat and hope that they actually all show up on that Friday, right? So seeing that kind of happen more and more smooth as time went on, I think has been fascinating. And I would like to think that as we do more things like this, we show ourselves in the arena of VKet and, working with, companies in VR. The whole point of ministry is to kind of humanize these entities and encourage people to work together with them, and to kind of take away the stigmas that we like to invent ourselves. Because when we're talking about the unknown, it's just human nature to fill in the blanks, right? That's how we ended up with like sun god texts, even though, we were talking about the sun. And with ministry, I really don't know what's going to happen later on, because that's going to be entirely dependent on what the scene does. Ministry is very proactive in pushing what it thinks should move forward, but that's entirely reactive of the things that happen and exist in the scene. We can only grow as much as the scene grows, and so our primary mission is to make sure that new users show up, get a good experience, and have a reason to stay. Healthy reasons, of course.
Do you find, especially even this year, as we're continuously growing as a community, do you find more people actively reaching out to you for promotional materials, or do maybe they see something online that they like?
Yes and no. More recently, I kind of put a stopgap, because we would have people putting in tickets with no information, which is fair. We're the first ones to kind of do this in the format that we are. But we definitely we've gone from a point where like some weeks I'd have to be like, okay, let's hit up the partner, see what they have going on. So to kind of trail off a bit, but without getting into it, I believe in multi-instancing. Like, I'm a very big hardliner on that, and Ministry prides itself on being able to do that. So one of the ways that I'm able to get my team to be comfortable doing that is every week we have multiple events happening at the same time. So it's kind of like having multiple instances. And so some weeks I would have to go, okay, we don't have enough events. I want to go get some more. But back to your question, lately we've gotten more tickets than we have bandwidth for. And I've unfortunately had to actually say to a few people like, hey, we caught you 3 times last month. I'm going to have to deny this one so we can go back to other people who've been putting in tickets. Not as much as you would think, but that's definitely something that's come to pass. And yeah, so we're definitely seeing more and more people, but the type of people we're seeing, I think, is really interesting because it's showing that we are becoming more familiar, more of like kind of a homeworld name. And so people are putting in tickets for things that make sense a lot more often. We actually met one of our strongest partners, Sidebar, because they put in a ticket for something they really needed help with 2 days beforehand. And normally, you know, behind the scenes, I'm like, oh God, like, did you not read the Discord? But like, obviously I don't say that. But you know, I met with them. I was like, hey, I'm not going to be able to help you, but I like what you put down. I'd like to help with this. Maybe next time. Can we have a meeting? We had a meeting. It worked out. And so on and so forth. They came to last year's Gear Fest. They were an instrumental piece. And now we market through them. They've seen a lot of growth, and we've seen a lot of growth with them. So I think that answers your question if I didn't trail off too hard.
Do you think that it could potentially be a matter of just not having a gross amount of staff that you probably want? I would assume every group wants to have a big old staff thing, but it's also really humbling. I would assume that people are coming up to you because they know that you could get the job done.
Yeah. So we have a really strong team. And because of the way we're formatted with our team, it can actually be misleading. Our whole thing is that less is more. And so even though we have a long list of dancers and a nice, you know, long list of prefects, Ministry is actually physically a lot smaller than it seems. Because again, like you mentioned earlier, you're always kind of seeing us behind the scenes and not up front. That's because we're directing those teams versus being the team. And so if I had, you know, the prefects that we have are phenomenal, and I genuinely to this day am shocked that I got like such a good lottery, because I've, you know, the amount of teams I've seen start and stop and start and stop or evolve or depreciate is insane in the last like 6 years. And I was blessed with a fantastic team that I can rely on. If I had 3 times the amount of them, exactly how they are, we would be having a very different conversation today for sure. But no, having staff is a huge part of it. Being able to delegate is very effective. Something I'm very bad at. They're always yelling at me to do less and let them do more.
I was gonna say, like, where do you kind of see the new year headed? You get it? Is there a really big calling for a lot of people that are either in your group or your Discord that actively want to like get promoted on staff?
Yes and no. So we don't quite have a hierarchy like a lot of clubs or teams would. Even though we operate in parallel to that. What I face a lot with kind of running everything is we'll bring in 10 or 15 dancers in a month, and we'll get like a handful of prefects, and they'll love what we're doing. Some of them are experienced and like what we do. Some of them are brand new and getting started because of us. And then they become a lead somewhere else, which is awesome. We don't like tell anyone like, oh, once you're dancing with us, or that's all you can do. We encourage, for example, I think 4 of our prefects right now are working as teachers for various different things, from go-go dancing to horror, scream, like jump out and like scare tactic stuff, breakdancing. They're doing a lot of different stuff with the temple, which is kind of like a VR university for like coding, scripting, dancing, you know, event running. And seeing them join other teams, seeing those teams do better now that they took what they learned from us and brought it over there. So there's like kind of a constant flow of like, we grabbed some, we lost some, we grabbed some, we lost some. But in turn, it allows us to grow more, because the more teams that are developed around us that trust us and we have a dialogue with, the more effective we are when we come to the table and we're asked, hey, who should we be asking to help with this? What should we be doing? And when we have vetted people that either came from our team or are familiar with our team, that's kind of where our staff structure lives. It's in that discussionary part of like, hey, what should we do and who should we work with? And then we give our suggestion and they take it or leave it. But usually when they take it, we see a lot more momentum and movement. So we see a lot of people who want to come in, and we have a lot of people who show up and then don't come back because they thought it was like this way more intense thing than it is. Again, ministry is actually physically smaller than it looks, and we're just here to make other things work better, right? We only grow when the scene grows.
It's such an amazing time to be within this community and this type of group. Is there's a lot of things that do go around in the background. And again, I do want to give kudos to Ministry Promotions, you and your team, for not only cultivating a wide range of different traits that you can add to the community, whether you be a dancer, a VJ, or even help with the promotion side, or even 3D modeling and stuff like that, or even multimedia, and being able to not only have those groups, not only teach other people and kind of aid them in the trade, but be able to grow and provide even more for the promotions company and stuff like that. So that's definitely a kudos to you. And again, a lot of your hard work doesn't get noticed as often as it should. And this is kind of the reason why we have you on here, so we can promote the promotions. It's I did it. It's finally, we have it unlocked now. That's very exciting, but kind of getting a little step back. And we're going to kind of tread on a little bit of nostalgic territory, but where did it all begin for you as far as like promotion goes? Were you just interested in being like, hey, this guy seems cool, this dancer was cool, this DJ was cool, I got to figure out a way to put them online?
Well, I've always been a talker. I think I'm so good at talking because when I was a kid, all I ever heard was, hey, you talk too much, and I'm defiant. So here we are with a silver tongue. When I first got into VR, it came after. So I had friends who were big in the Second Life. I logged in twice, wasn't my cup of tea. Wish I could have more. I'd probably be more effective today if I did. I used to always have this like stigma in my head about like the nerds downstairs playing D&D in the basement, but they're always happier than the jocks that are supposedly cool, right? That whole scope thing. And so when I came to VR, socially, I have like my social battery is like infinite outside of tolerance. I love talking to people. I can walk up to anyone, in any state of mind and be comfortable in public or in private. But in VR, that wasn't the case because I understood when I got here that there was a different language I didn't know how to speak. There was different social cues that I didn't know how to grab. But I fell into the club scene because I was walking around looking for the dark part of the internet, and that led me to a Void Club, and then that led me to Club AU, my home club where I first started, which will always be my home. And I joined as a visitor to this lobby of like 60 people that swarmed me and they loved that I was there for no other reason that I was a new face, that I was someone that, they didn't see before. And by the end of the night, they were all screaming, you're a user. And I didn't know what the ranking system was. So apparently I went from visitor to new user to user in 2 hours, and they were really impressed with that. Moving forward, before I digress, when I started hosting with them, I was given a static event called Wobble Wednesday that we networked through the Oasis way back in the day. And I got to taste what it was like to be on the other side of the fence, seeing people who are like, I didn't know this could be what VR was. I didn't know this could exist. This is the music, the people. I'm taken. I'm smitten. And I was immediately hooked on giving that sensation that I felt, that love and that welcoming feeling from a bunch of strangers, to as many people as I could. And from there, I couldn't stop. I became an event manager with AU over the course of 3 years. That eventually transitioned into being a community manager with Castle at the Oasis for over a year. I worked with Mage and DJ Steve Harvey at DGen and Virtual Sanctuary. I got to staff at Slyfest and stuff, and we'll get into it in a bit, but eventually that became ministry, and I just haven't stopped. I love seeing people grow. My favorite thing about VR is someone can walk up here with no skills and walk away a programmer, an athlete. That a mute will find their voice. They'll become bilingual. All kinds of random stuff that like they just didn't have the resources or opportunity for IRL, that they can now take IRL, and like the amount of stories like that where someone came to VR and walked away a stronger, better person it's endless. And so that's kind of what got me into promoting. Was when I left AU, I loved AU, and I still do. It wasn't like anything bad, but you couldn't pay me to do the club thing again. I'll help you with your club. I'll promote it. I'll teach you how to manage it, but I'm not, you're not giving me a title. You couldn't pay me. My heart already went to that once, but I do still want to do this, and that's kind of where promotions came into it. Is the same thing with club management, connecting these two groups that should be together to 1 + 1 = 3, and this DJ should be here, or why haven't you two talked? You've both been here for 5 years. Talk, and just that whole mechanism.
I mean, the whole idea that a lot of people were saying that you're a yapper and you're yapping now, and it's fantastic, but it's not a bad thing. Of course, you yapping right now is getting me really like fuzzy and warm to even start to talk about VKet and the things that you have coming up for VKet in the next couple of weeks, especially for the people at home that don't know what's going on in VKet, but we will definitely get to that very, very shortly. On top of that, too, it is extremely refreshing to kind of be able to hear these success stories from just a user's standpoint, because as we're leading into the Christmas holiday season, we've already seen plenty of things on TikTok and YouTube of people getting their new quests and being able to just come in here and kind of either start off where we are or kind of build their own little avenues, and even stuff way back in the day when it was all gatekeepy and you have to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody and have to actually go through the publics as kind of a thing. But take us back to the first couple of days in VR, and was there any sort of video online that influenced you to come on here? How did you even learn about VRChat?
Okay, so nothing cool like that, but I guess the nerds' ears are about to pick up, like the hardware nerds. Way back before Skyrim VR hit Steam, I had a S7 with a Gear 2. And I stayed up all night trying to make this work. I ended up landing on a program called Trinus VR, where you can mirror your PC to your phone. And it did the like dual goggle lens thing, because I'm an Elder Scrolls nerd. I love the Elder Scrolls, and I really wanted to get in VR with it. So when I finally got it working, I was there for half an hour, and my face was sweating. I had a controller, I had the headset on, it was working. I was playing Skyrim VR. And I ended up on the phone with Samsung support, because I got this really good rep who jumped off the script for me, and we couldn't get a straight answer, but the Samsung S7 can hang out at 90C without failing for hours. And that was something we had to figure out, because it was 2 inches from my face. It was a plate of glass. If that popped, no thank you. But fast forward a bit, something was itching me to buy a headset, so I went to Facebook Marketplace, grabbed a CV1 off of some guy who, his kids used it twice, and he was like, whatever, I'll toss it to you for a couple $100. And one of the free games was VRChat, and like anybody else, there were some Knuckles, and there were some these, and there were all the memes, and you have kids running around and saying obscenities, and sad adults in the corner. But then I met someone that didn't make any sense to me. Now my whole life, I guess my whole teen up, I was a big goth person in high school. All of my friends were, trans, queer, different, all different colors, walks in life and cultures. And I noticed that I was talking to someone in a great pug who was a man's voice in a cat girl with no shoes on, stockings, and they had someone else's name above their head in a neon sign with an arrow pointing, saying it was that person's property. And they were talking to me about how miserable they were because that person above their head wasn't giving them the time of day. And it was just this alien thing to me I wanted to know more about, because back in the Second Life stuff that my buddy, I saw a lot of parallels. And so I was like, okay, there's something a lot deeper here that I don't know how to find. And that's when I started public hopping and being asking anyone who was friendly enough, hey, where's the dark side of all of this? Where's that cool stuff?
Geez.
Where's that that need to know? And that led me to a Void Club where I saw someone flying around, and I was like, that's so cool. And this guy, Captain Sean, came up to me and was like, do you want a flying avatar? And I was like, yeah. And the avatar is a mess now if I were to re-upload it, because later on he ended up giving me the files. But it was one of those SDK2 gold avatars where everything was done really nice. And he was like, don't give this to anyone yet. I haven't released it. So I didn't know the significance of that at the time, but I got my first avatar. That's where these horns came from.
I was
That's
going to
why,
ask, you weren't going to do like a Skyrim, trying to look for a Skyrim public
Nope.
avatar?
I mean, my brain wasn't even in that mindset. I was just after this thing I didn't understand that I knew was there. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it sounded like. I just knew it existed. And, I'm playing Pong with someone who at the time I thought was a mute, but they were actually arguing with someone in Discord. And then that's when I asked them, we're playing Pong. I'm like, so where's the dark side of the internet on VR? And they like looked up for a sec and they did this and finished up what they were doing, left and sent me an invite. And that's how I met the crew at Club AU. And I met all of these fantastic people yelling their cheers and being happy to talk about their lives and their experiences in VR and telling me all about the menus and how things worked. And that's how it kind of fell into place. Was I found out about VR because of Skyrim and Trinus VR on my phone. And then I was like, oh, it exists on Steam. I got to get a headset. And then once that novelty wore off, I was like, well, what now? And I found the free game and went down the rabbit hole.
I'm surprised that the cat girl didn't unmute and just be like, "You cop." Like, really? What do you mean the dark internet? Is you're looking for a good time kind of a thing? But so what avatar were you the first couple of the weeks, months in game? Years.
So imagine, it doesn't work anymore. And if I knew this question was coming, I would have uploaded it and changed into it. But imagine a very stick e-boy with like a unique face. It didn't look like any other e-boy and still doesn't, but had the horns, very thin SDK2. Could I change avatars really quick? I can show you the wings,
absolutely. And I'll hide the suspense and wait for the grand reveal of it as we continue on here on VRCDJLIVE.
So this is the Halloween make of my avatar I had like made for me with the horns, but these wings
oh my gosh,
came with it. And I will always keep these wings and these horns on all of my avatars. And as you see, they're on a gesture, just like back in the day. And I can actually fly around and whatnot.
The texture of the wings just does not cut it for you right now.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that would be the avatar, was a Captain Sean E Demon Boy. Oh, and it even had a little, like, I called her Homie Bot until he took all the clothes off her, which was stupid, but she used to just hang out and have different modes. She'd sit against the wall, or she'd pole dance, or she'd, like, boogie, and it was an optimized avatar that you could spawn another avatar that would just dance with you. It was awesome. I loved that thing. I still love it. I got to re-upload it and get some stuff on it to put on this one.
I mean, definitely a good asset to have, especially if you're going to go to the clubs and you don't have full body and you want to,
Yep.
It's like your Final Fantasy 14 guys that are just like doing stuff and this is all they're doing the entire thing.
Slash crouch, slash stand, slash crouch, slash stand.
Yeah, honestly, that's crouching in front of a mirror with your arms all the way down. But
yeah.
But this is VRCDJLIVE. We're hanging out with Skoot here from Ministry Promotions. Of course, everyone in chat, you're more than welcome to submit your questions that you would love to know a little bit about, especially as we're continuing on with the origins of Skoot and understanding kind of where the promotions came into play. One of the absolutely largest topics that we love to talk about here, especially because you got a guy that did come in 2018, is the boom of 2022. The fact that people just got headsets and they just kind of flocked in here. Tell me your opinion on how all that started to where we are now.
In a way, I feel like I kind of missed it because being so integrated with everything so much. So it's hard, right? For me to kind of like pinpoint how to say this, but Second Life was considered a dead, dying platform in 2021 with 64 million concurrent like logons. Obviously, 20 million of those were probably bots. But look at what we're doing now, or even 2022, or even 2018, 2019, with sub 100,000 people, right? So it was really cool to see the massive influx of people. It was a little frustrating for a lot of us because we'd have a lot of these people who were IRL doing like big venues and doing corporate events with, corporate hooked up DJs and game developers. And I remember at one point we had someone from Sony running around trying to talk to people. And watching these professionals and these people with decades of experience just fall right on their face when they got here and either walk away with nothing with a smile or ending up on Twitter being like, I can't believe this scene doesn't want this help when they didn't go to anyone to help them, right? Like thinking they did, of course. Their heart was in the right place. I think that it was kind of like a shock, right? Like imagine like a lake that's not frozen but cold enough to kind of be sheety, and you punch it and you get the cracks and the ripples. I would depict the boom like that. And now that we've had a summer and it's starting to freeze up, we're going to get that thick piece of ice we can all skate on, because now that, you know, the EAC stuff has blown over, opinions about that aside, we're now at a higher point than where that boom brought us. We've broken the concurrent user count several times, which tickles me pink. But yeah, I don't know if I even really answered your question. That's a tough one. Again, I feel like I missed that boom myself because I just, again, nose to the keyboard, look up every 2 months, and you're like, oh, everything's changed. All right, back to work.
I know for me and trying to understand, and a lot of other people that are trying to understand it too, especially like even during TwitchCon time this past year, we had a lot of VRChat people coming to TwitchCon San Diego, and even Tupper was just like floored over the fact that even if you do have a ton of DJs and a lot of active people in our community at the convention this year, they were able to break records even that weekend alone. Just the fact that even all those people are actively in VR and it doesn't happen. So that completely blows my mind, especially when it does come down to, you know, the future of our community, the future of where the DJs are lying and stuff like that, even way back in the day, even more so. And this is kind of feeding a little bit more into what we were just discussing over the fact that when you did come in, it was Club AU. That's what you were saying?
Yes.
And the fact that that kind of brought you in and with all sorts of music events and the community itself. How do you compare seeing something like that back in the day, as well as the transition to where we are now and where we're headed with a lot of these much larger groups, much larger festivals? Obviously, there are a lot of groups that want everything. They want the size, they want the data, do you think we're on the right path to where we need to be?
So I do, because I think that the platform is growing, and we're seeing a lot more people, you know, give each other props and pats on the backs rather than try to like compete. The scene's too small to compete. Like if you want to be this deep underground, like one of a kind, fantastic. You achieved that by being on VRChat. The whole like you got to know someone to get to like technically by definition this is considered a dark net. You need hardware and a special login to get in, right? But this is gonna ruffle some feathers. People hate when I go into this, but here we are. AU was a drinking community, and a lot of people will agree that there's two types of staff that come out of drinking communities: the debaucherous, the problematic, and the immature, and the best you've ever seen. No in between. And back in the day, when we would do collabs, there were things that we would watch out for. Is this group hanging out? Like, did all their staff come? Okay, they did, but they're all in the corner, kind of clicked up, not engaging with the new users coming in. Are they bringing kids into this area, like, or type of stuff, right? Like, are they in desktop mode, or are they making an effort to be here? Obviously, we didn't chastise people who had stuff going on, but it's fascinating to me, in mentioning what you just said about like the how-tos. A lot of people right now are trying to be professional options without knowing the why, right? You'll see people try to optimize their events, which I'm a huge advocate for. But when you don't know why, it becomes detrimental instead of a help. When you optimize your event, it's to keep people's resources low on cost for their hardware so they can enjoy the event. So when you have someone show up and go, you can be in whatever avatar you wear, and then 20 people, now it's poor or better. 40 people, now it's medium or better. Then it's green at 70. You're having people change your avatar a dozen times, so you're just destroying the draw calls for them. People are going to leave and not come back because they've been asked to change their avatar twice. And if you just locked in at poor or better, you would have had the same outcome as you would having them all in green. So what's to kind of wrap up what I'm digressing here on in word souping is, a lot of the times I will see these people who either came from IRL or who have been here for 5 years doing things, and they don't know why they're doing them. And these are things that a drinking Discord in 2019 had figured out and like put into its staff training process. Again, a drinking Discord in 2019 that we will see people who are doing this for a living IRL fail to understand, and they do it IRL. And sometimes it's ego that gets in the way. Sometimes it's that addiction to professionalism. Like coming from a corporate landscape, professionalism isn't dotting your I's and making a pretty email. It's using the 3 lines of information that you need to send someone and not saying, hope this reaches you well, blah, 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 blah. Here's an Excel sheet for an Excel sheet for an Excel sheet. People do that and bottleneck themselves so hard. So right now we're seeing a turning point, at least from my point of view, where we're seeing less of that. We're seeing a lot of these people either get fatigue and not continuing their projects, or which is preferred, hitting that fatigue, sitting back and going, okay, why is a handful of drunks doing what I'm trying to do effortlessly and I'm sweating? And it's because those drunks are having fun. They want to do this out of love, and you're trying to make a mechanical setup that you don't need. To your question earlier about like does having a lot of staff help? Yes, but why does it help? No two projects are the same. So you'll see people who have done projects in the past do really well, and they try to make a new one, and they're trying to staff up before they need them. They don't know what these staff are going to do, so they end up with 5 or 10 hosts that aren't hosting events because they don't have the events. They're ready for the events, but they don't have them yet. And so what you end up with is a lot of fatigue and bottlenecking before you even get started, as to where what we did with ministry and what we encourage every team we work with to do is get yourself a little stressed out, right? Be like, okay, now I can't lift all of these things. Okay, what can't you lift? You know exactly what you need someone else to pick up for you. And that way you're locked into it. You don't have a bunch of people, you don't have too many cooks in the kitchen, you're not stressing yourself or your team out. I think we are going in the right direction, but I think we're going to see a lot more of this between teams. We're going to see a lot of teams that have done well, try to hold to their roots and kind of do some of this. And we're going to see a lot of teams that haven't been heard about coming up. We're also going to see a lot of teams that do well, do better. But I don't think that there's going to be an exact direction or metric. I think as a whole, this pond that we call VR that we're trying to dig out into the ocean is going to become a little bit more volatile in terms of how things are done. And I think that's a good thing, because that's what's going to kind of force everybody into like can I grab this stove burner and burn myself, or can I grab this handle to get to what's in the oven?
I know one of the trendy things right now, the hotter topics to discuss, no pun intended with your burning thing, but the fact that we as a community, we are growing, and we want to find a nice common medium between hobbyist and professionalist. As well as trying to grab the attention of a lot of the professionals to come in here and perform with us, or have some groups that have not really the word clout that I'm looking for, but networking would be a good way to say. Yeah, I would say better networking for a much larger development, to have more people come in that have a large status to it. Where do you find a ratio of the turnaround as we continue to shake up the bag a little bit about the amount of people in the future coming up, for the amount of people that are actively trying to DJ in here, compared to some of the groups looking for the greatest DJ to come into VRChat to perform?
If you brought Marshmello and Porter Robinson and we'll just say Muzz. A lot of people know Muzz because he's already here. Let's get them all on the lineup together. And you leaned on their names and their IRL promotion alone, you might hit 80 people in the lobby, but it's really unlikely. If you were to book them all IRL and bring them to a parking lot, if you don't tell anyone that they're going to be there, they're gonna be playing to a snowplow in the corner of their parking lot and someone's Kia that's been there for 2 months. A lot of these places, social media is really strong for promoting in VR when it's used for promotion and not hot takes. But what a lot of people fail to realize coming into VR, and a lot of people who are still in VR right now or have been here for a while, is everything changes once you're here. Your strongest suit is going to be boots on the ground. I think that we're going to get a lot more DJs. I think that we need a lot more DJs, and I think that's a good thing. The number one thing that IRL friends of mine who DJ or have played stuff IRL will mention is either the bottlenecks or the toxicities of the IRL community. And a lot of those revolve around being a resident DJ, or this stage is mine, or I was supposed to play on that day, or, you know, how dare you talk to those girls? I wasn't going to hit on them, but they were going to buy my stuff, and their boyfriend is a promoter, blah, blah, blah. And all of that stuff stops existing here, because the moment you start talking like that, someone's like, yeah, it's crazy. And then they like, poop, now they're at the next party. They can't just walk outside past doors, and now they can't get back in without paying a second cover. I think that we're going to get, I think I'm answering your question. I'm digressing a little bit, but I think that we're going to see, I think we need to see a lot more DJs come here, because why'd you start DJing? Was it to get rich? Was it to be some cool guy? Because if it was, I guarantee you're stressed out right now and not doing so hot. But if you came here to have fun, I don't know, a lot of people who know Sorry back in the day with AU, but you know, we'd all be about to hit the hay, and then we'd be like, oh, Sorry's online. He's been by himself in an instance for an hour. And then we'd go there and we'd fill the instance before going to bed, because Sorry's an insane DJ, but he didn't care, and he still doesn't care. He just wants to play his music. And because of that, his sets are disgusting. And when you book Sorry at your event, you have retention. And that's an element that a lot of people seem to forget, whether it be because of ego or because of habits that have worked for them IRL that will not work here. And I think, again, it's kind of like a grab the stove burner to find out it's hot. We need to bloat the instance just a little bit more with DJs, because it feels like there's a lot of pressure on DJs right now that there's too many of them. There's too many of them to compete with each other. But if you stop competing and realize that promoting outwards is going to bring users in, again, like we're still waiting for a boom to happen that hasn't happened. We have what we consider booms in the VR scape, but VR hasn't had its like turnover yet. We're not in the millions of users. I guarantee you, if we had 1 million, just a single million of concurrent users on this platform tomorrow, the discussions of we'd go from there's too many DJs to book in the scene back to why are all these clubs popping up constantly, but it wouldn't matter because there'd be enough people to populate them. I think I answered your question. I'm sorry.
you definitely, you're very good elaborating into a specific point when it does come down to it. So it does help with that. And especially when you were talking with Sorry, again, one of those VRChat DJ legends that we do see in here occasionally. Of course, he has a child now, so he's kind of doing that. And a good shout out to our friend Sorry, who not only is a strong DJ and a good ally here for the program, but also was one of the few DJs to even perform music VKet 0 that kind of helped even push the program. So obviously he's a key component to when it comes down to all of this. But you're definitely right. I think a lot of us do have to take a little bit of extra time in our days to either go and explore some of the new upcoming DJs. They might not be what you want. It might not be what you're wanting to listen to or look for, but at least you'll be able to like check that off to be like, okay, well, this person plays this, and if I want to go for that experience, go and enjoy that. And we don't get enough time in our day to go to experience that.
Can I touch on that really quick?
Sure.
One other thing that I've noticed, and I don't think it's anyone's fault, because I see this mostly with the more experienced DJs, which can be frustrating for promoters or club owners, because it's like, why am I having this conversation with you? But again, it's jargon meeting jargon, right? So I'm one of the weirdos who likes to dance to rhythm. It's crazy, right? But when I say rhythm, I mean rhythm, not shitum. Huge difference. I'm not a DJ, but I'm sure plenty of people either just got angry or very happy to hear that. If I'm a DJ, which I'm not, so like grain of salt, and I'm gonna go book at a venue for friends, right? It's not a music venue, it's a social venue, right? I shouldn't be upset if I play what I want to play to a bunch of people who just got done listening to trance or techno or house, and I start banging out some rhythm, and when I'm done my set, I went from 40 people in front of me to 3, and 2 of them are AFK. That sucks, and it's not fun, and it's a two-way street. The DJ should obviously be aware of their surroundings. The club should not be booking a DJ who's expecting to be able to do that and still keep their crowd. But that is something that I see experienced club owners and experienced DJs missing the absolute most. And it's the number one reason we see twitlongers. Again, just from my this isn't like a hard fact, or I'm not hardlining this, but this is what I've seen. And I feel like if we can zero in on it, it'll stop happening. But There's no one on VRChat that is so famous that carpets should always be red. There's no one IRL that's that famous, but especially in VRChat, like we're not there. I don't think we should ever be there. I think that right now we have a very organic, beautiful scene of music and creators, and as that lives, we need to be real with each other about what our expectations are as well as ourselves, and that's what's going to avoid us from ending up in a situation where, why am I playing to a bunch of people that are in the room next door? Well, did you look at the venue before you booked? Or why is this DJ mad at me because all of my people didn't like their set? Okay, why did you book, let's say, Neftanica after booking Smiles and Wiggles? Both fantastic DJs, and if you know what you're doing with both of them, they can go back to back. But like, if you have one that's, got people partying and drinking and playing pool and cards, and then the other one that's going to have them headbanging, it's not going to transition. Like, everyone's not going to drop their card game and start headbanging. It's just not going to happen. And so it's up to there is no one person at fault there, but this is something that I see constantly, and I think that both DJs and venue runners need to continuously be aware of, and they just either choose not to be, or something distracts them from focusing on that point.
I know nowadays it's kind of a popular take, especially for people that are wanting to be more engaged with our community, want to build their own community or group or club, maybe want to do promotions, maybe want to do ownership or even event managing for that matter. Like that requires a little bit of skill and training, and you can't just kind of go in there saying, well, I can do this and expect it to be 100%. On top of it too, like you were saying, it is kind of unassuring how like that you have some DJs come in expecting maybe a crowd or maybe put on the best performance of their life, and it just doesn't work like that, when we really have to take a couple steps back and say, it's fine to practice. It's fine to come on in and take the time to practice and not be upset over the fact that no one's there, but to practice as well. But another fun, interesting point that I like to try to get back and forth with, and I'd love your take on it if you would like to, but I think a lot of people, when they do come in here to do their hour, they're looking to perform the perfect playlist. And if they don't do the perfect playlist, or the people that are in front of them to hear the perfect playlist aren't there, then I feel like all hope is kind of lost, right?
So, please, anyone listening, take this with a grain of salt. Again, I'm not a DJ, right? But I will say that the amount of times that I've heard an insane set and, we're all on the rail shaking it and we're having a good time, and the DJ comes down depressed. I screwed this up. I missed this transition. And we're all like, what the hell are you talking about, man? I think that especially some of the more experienced DJs should work to be less critical of themselves. At the end of the day, they're a disc jockey. They're having a lot of fun spinning music. They're providing a vibe in their chest to the rest of our ears. And again, you're scratching, right? Like, if 9 out of 10 ears are not going to hear your mistake because you're the only one who knows you made it. It probably sounds sick because you were going for something else. You didn't get to enjoy that sound like we all did. There's nothing wrong with taking your set serious. That's why, you improve, right? Same thing with dancing, right? Like I'll go to something I do know, and I know this translates because I've had this conversation hundreds of times with dancers and DJs. If I bang a 3-flip on a skateboard, if I do a bar spin into a whip on a scooter, if I'm doing anything on a bike, if I land it sketchy, I almost just screwed up my ankle. I could have ate the pavement, bit the curb. But people watching, like the first time I landed a 3-whip at my hometown skate park, I was afraid of making the full rotation because I kept like lopsiding in the air. And one of this kid that like I hated his guts and he hated mine, and he just was like, do it, pussy, just do it. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I just I saw white and I just went for it. And to this day, I've never gotten as much air on one of those because I just sent it. But when I went around, it was the sketchiest grab because I bent my whole body to grab the scooter back from under me with just my toe. But because of where I was in the air, it looked insane. Could never do that again, would never want to. I damn near broke my neck. But that sketchy, barely, I can barely say I did it, looked so good. No, everyone was silent. It was fantastic. And I think that's the same thing with your transitions. It's the same thing with your breakdance moves. you did it. You got to be a little less critical of yourself, because if you're not having fun, you're not going to perform as well. And if you're being too critical of yourself, you're not going to have fun. So you're going to just end up being a detriment to your goal.
Kind of goes hand in hand with the phrase that you learn from failure, right? Like the most successes you'll ever get is when you fail.
Yeah. Hopefully that made sense.
I mean, obviously we don't want people to fail here, but at the same time, don't go on your skateboard. Don't leave VRCDJLIVE and go on your skateboard and then like break your ass while you're out there doing it. I mean, Skoot has already kind of done that. We're talking with Skoot here, our ministry promotions on VRCDJLIVE, and for those of you that are in chat, you're more than welcome to ask your questions, and maybe even if you want to learn how to skateboard, I would assume Skoot would definitely be able to tell you a little bit more about that. Before we get into some more of the fun things, I know we really want to touch upon VKet, because there's a lot to talk about, especially as we are heading into the next hour of the program. But I kind of want to ease into this, kind of get it over with, and just bring light to it. Only because I don't want to say I have a platform that I can use to like educate people, but at the same time, sometimes we are not so vocal about this, and I really want to take at least one show to open up the fact of club etiquette. So what I would like for you to do is I would love for you to kind of tell us a little bit, in your eyes, what would be some really good strong etiquette compared to some of the things that you've seen in the clubs that you dislike.
So we're back to the harsh words.
Ooh, I get it. It's spicy. This is some spicy comment, but
again, a lot of these things I'm going to say I learned from a drinking community, and I've seen drinking communities have down, and social communities that these more professional styled, bigger types are failing to grab for themselves. What we'll see a lot of is, so we'll have an 18 plus venue, and they're hardline, right? Like they don't have any NSFW content, but they don't want kids around because they're afraid of the risk. Okay, fantastic. But then they open up a group public or a public instance, which broadcasts to the whole platform, which is 13 plus. They'll chastise VRChat for its lack of whatever they think it should have for moderation tools, and then they'll use hashtag VRChat on Twitter. Then they won't have staff. They'll either be behind the deck with their DJ, doing stuff. And they end up in this perpetual like whirlpool of, I want this to change, and then being the reason it doesn't. Small things, right? If you have someone who comes to your club all the time who's never staffed before, it might be scary to trust them. But if they're always up front headbanging with you, make them a host. Tell them to go on blue, put their name on your announcement, and have them in front of the DJ. A huge failing point I see for crowd retention is not having someone on the floor. And just little things like that we're afraid to do because either we don't want someone to mess up our brand or we don't want to have to train somebody. Just let it go. If it messes up, don't let them do it again. We see, again, a lot of people doing things and not knowing why they're doing it. There's a lot of monkey see, monkey do, and that's not anyone's fault. Again, IRL, whether we're talking about the corporate sphere, we're talking about, the IRL DJ scene, dancers, there's ways to do things, and there's a reason that people do things the way they do. And so it's very easy for us to forget that there isn't a mold we have to follow. And I think that making sure that you're not, like, something I really hate seeing is people forcing shaders on club goers. I fully understand that we want everyone to have the same experience, but you can't be mad at the scene for not attending your club or bashing you on Twitter if when they showed up, they can't turn off blacking out their headset, or they can't get rid of the screen space reflections, or like the screen space shader that's like turning everything into a nuclear sun. If you want people to engage, so the Dreamwalkers actually, Loki from Loki Records, you know that song, I'm so nasty, you already, yeah, that guy. So he came into VR, and thank you, Spooky, for introducing us to him. Spooky, who owns Network, you should check them out. They live in the Oasis. They found them at Luxor, just chilling, and they were like, "Are you the real Loki?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And so we all been working together. This man had no problem walking up to us at ministry and going, how should we do this? And he picked up what he thought would work and left what he wouldn't, and that's what worked for him. But that first time that they performed in VR, it was all people from their community. They don't need VRChat. They wanted to use VRChat because it was an opportunity for them to give their fans more content without costing them anything. They have worlds that are basically their album right now. You can walk through an album, and there's unreleased music just released in VRChat baked into the worlds. But anyways, I'm digressing. One of the number one things I heard as I was walking around these instances, because they were multi-instancing, because they just had to, they couldn't fit everybody, was people weren't expecting people to be hanging out. They were so relieved and enjoying the fact that they were at a place with 2 go-go dancers and lights and lasers, and we had Zardonics come by one time, but everyone's chilling. They're having a good time. There's people headbanging and dancing around, but around them there's also people hanging out. And that's because they had their hosts in front of the DJ to have people engaging. They had hosts at the back to show them where the world settings were, and they were in a call. It wasn't this big thing. There wasn't this huge stress on how they needed to have it running. There wasn't this elitist platform on we're the best, so have your tie up tight. And I think that in terms of club etiquette, that's really what it comes down to, is setting your expectations properly. And knowing why you're doing something. Why are you optimizing? I'm the most pro optimize your event person you'll ever meet, but I'm also the first one in the room to go, don't optimize that. There's no purpose. You have no media coming. You don't have anyone performing. This is a super optimized world, and we have avatar calling settings. Just don't even stress your staff out or your community. Or when it's like, okay, you want to make everyone happy and you have a fundraiser, but you're cramming 9 clubs into one instance, and it's not optimized. So, and because at Ministry we do several events at the same time, sometimes we'll do a hat trick. When I used to sell cars, that's when you would sell 3 cars in a day. So if we do 3 events at the same time at Ministry, we call it a hat trick. So when we've done hat tricks, I've come from optimized instances that had 80 people and they were running fine and it had all the shaders and all the heavy stuff. But then we come to a non-optimized instance with 40 people. And as I'm sitting there talking to people, Nightfalls crashes and comes back, and then Skippy is talking to me, and then this person crashes and come back, and then we just have all of this repeat, like people crashing and going, darn VRChat. I'm trying not to digress super hard. I could talk about this for 5 times as long as this interview is supposed to go.
I mean, these are all really good topics based on like keeping things optimized and providing for a really big crowd. I think I would really want to focus in on the etiquette of the users that are coming in compared to what we experience at a lot of these shows. A lot of the new kids, again, a lot of the new kids that do come in, they kind of have to go off of are some of the videos that we've seen on YouTube.
Yes.
And while some of them are really good, some of them just we kind of aren't proud of, and they shed a really weird negative light on it. But what do you think that the etiquette can get a little bit better for, especially for some new users or even current users that are in here, maybe drinking too much or doing drugs or being ridiculous?
So we're all here to have fun. And whether we're talking about, memeing or substances or anything like that. And just to be clear, you're asking like right now I'm speaking to the users, not the staff, right?
Well, let me give you a better reference. So for those people that don't follow Ministry Promotions on X or Twitter, please go do that, because you guys did post a very wonderful interview with RL Umbra and Ghost Data just recently, which is a very fantastic 48 minutes of pure multimedia fascination. But some of the things that they were discussing was over the fact that while performing in VR is really fun to do, it's also quite a struggle when you have people coming in here and sometimes they're cheersing every 10 seconds as if they're like they're professional drinkers or they're professional party goers. And then you have people that are doing social cues where they're following along being like, well, I'm not going to be accepted in this group unless I'm actively doing this. But we also know as a community that can and is an issue. So kind of taking a reflection on that, what do we need to do for the future to kind of aid in our health to, while we do like to have a good time, kind of moderate it to the fact that it doesn't happen as aggressive as we want it to.
So, no matter what, people are cliquey. Human beings are very addictive to a herd mentality. And coming into a VRscape, it's really easy for new users to not realize that, hey, maybe I shouldn't jump up with that person who's dancing. To them, they see a fallback. They see a plague doctor wiggling. They don't see like a big booty baddie doing like some breakdancing. And same thing with the drinking communities. When you see one of the most popular worlds in VRChat named Drinking Night, a lot of those publics are very lawless. So you'll have children running around with a bunch of adults being drunk and belligerent and political, and it can really skew your perception of how these, how you should be at these events. It's hard for me to play suggestion for those users because at the end of the day, what they walk into is what they're gonna behave on. Club Degen, when I used to roll with them a lot more, again, nothing bad, just we're all busy. They're a drinking community, but something fascinating about them is they have a hierarchy parallel to their staff, which is like a drinking hierarchy, but it's specifically designed to prevent exactly what you're saying. It is very frowned upon from Marky Mark or Millie or DJ Steve Harvey or Enwin to have like if someone's like I've had too much, they've had too much, leave them alone. Just end of story. There's no reason to push that, and it is built into their staff structure to make sure that that doesn't happen. You have a higher chance of getting booted from one of those lobbies for trying to encourage someone to go overboard than you do from like saying something a little off kilter that's political. That definitely will offend the room. People's safety always should come first. It's really hard to pinpoint an answer for you because this is one of those things that I could really dive into because especially with the drinking scene, drinking in VR is a problem, but in a very different way than people realize. This isn't a problem that lives exclusively in VRChat. This isn't a base thing. A lot of these issues were on the internet before VRChat became a chat room you could walk into in an avatar. And the club scene, again, is a small fraction of the entire VR scene. And inside of the club scene, because of this bubble format that we end up in, like me and you can add new people every half hour and hop with them, but we're eventually going to curve and end up in a bubble just because of the way, algorithmics work. So it's very easy when you're around the drinking community to feel that's all that there is and you're surrounded by it. Because at that point you are, and a lot of those people encourage each other, and they really need not to. And that's something that Ghost touched on. I've seen it myself. I've seen someone, instead of taking the headset off and going to bed, they're holding it above their head, puking and screaming, it's all over my headset. That's horrendous, and that should never be encouraged. But we also need to be careful not to paint that as what the scene is, because again, when you're in those environments, you're surrounded by it, but 2 steps to the left and you're not there anymore. And a lot of these places are very anti that. These people do not end up becoming staff. They do not get followers. But if you go chill with them and encourage them, you're going to find 10 more like them. And then in the next lobby they go to, you follow them to, you're going to find 10 more like them again. And then you're going to get this perspective of this is what is here for me. And I think for users who are listening to this and trying to get into the scene, if you find yourself in an environment like this, find somewhere else to go. Or if you're a staff member or a community lead that's trying to prevent this type of culture from perpetrating, just move on from it. Don't encourage it. Just always tell people to drink water. Always tell people to chill. Cheers is a beautiful thing, right? It doesn't mean drinking. It could mean a fist in the air. It could be a sip of tea. It could be like it's a notion of goodwill. But there's a huge stigma right now that people are just locking onto that it's about drinking. And I see both sides, and it's really tough because a lot of people do have a problem, and VRChat is not helping them with that problem. VRChat being a platform, not the team. While on the other hand, at Ministry alone, because again, I come from the drinking communities. There's a lot of people like myself who don't drink anymore. Did I quit drinking? No, I'm just too busy. I can't do what I do with a single beer in me. Back in the day, I could host all day with as much as I could guzzle, but that was a different animal. And we have that with a lot of dancers. They've started dancing and they've stopped drinking. They've started DJing and they've stopped drinking. The number one thing you can do to stay healthy in this environment is be productive, be happy, and surround yourself with good people. If you catch yourself in an environment, and we don't even have to talk about the drinking cliques. If you feel like you need to do something because that's what everyone else is doing, you are in the wrong place. And that place is not for you and should not have your time, attention, ads, likes, or group joins, period.
One of the beautiful things about VRChat, and especially in our community, is just the fact that we use music as a vehicle. And it's very poetic, I know, but at the same time, it kind of is. We come in here, we want the music more than just the alcohol or to have a good time using sugar or energy drinks, or even, because that could be addicting too. Caffeine's addicting, of course. But obviously, you know, I like to bring this topic up occasionally just to kind of remind people to be like, you know, it's perfectly okay for you to go in and enjoy your friends and not be peer pressured into a lot of these types of addictive substances. While you may look cool at the end of the day, I know for me, every time I take a drink in my room, I have to remind myself I'm by myself in my room. Like,
yes,
everybody else is on the internet. I'm drinking with people on the internet, but I'm still in my room.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of weird to kind of think a little bit about. But obviously, too, for those people that are watching, you know, obviously take care of yourself. You don't want to drink too much while you're in here. Enjoy the music, enjoy the DJs, enjoy the scene that we have. But again, we want to make sure that we continue, especially going into the new year, into the new holiday season. We're getting some new users. And I'll also I use the caveat of just like, not everybody gets to go to college. But at the same time, the benefit of college is that you live on campus. So like you could legit just walk back to your dorm, do some night of drinking. But also within good friends as well. But we're here with VRC DJ Live, hanging out with Skoot and Ministry Promotions. Let's open some windows here. Let's let the nice breeze come in and talk a little bit about something that we've got coming up. You guys got cooking in the next couple weeks, and that's VKet. That's a big old thing happening, and we have a lot of things to discuss about VKet. And one of the things that surprised me a lot, even just coming into the program today, I asked you before stream, I said, so yeah, you told us about some of the events that you got coming up with Ministry Promotions. And I asked you, I said, is Ministry going to have a booth? And I was surprised because you said,
we have 3.
We have 3. There's 3 booths. There's three times the content of Ministry. Please tell us about it.
So right off the rip, there's a few things I want to go over because VKet is the best kept not secret, and I think that everyone who doesn't know what it is should go look at it immediately. It is one of the biggest advocates of the VRChat community. Ministry is not a club. Our whole thing is, hey, look how cool this person is when you ask us something. That's VKet's thing. They promote the creators in their sphere. So they always encourage that you get as many people of your team to, you know, try to get a booth as possible. And if you end up with an extra one, to collab with someone else, or if you can't use it, pass it off. And that's exactly what we did. So we ended up with 2 in a PC world because they have their quest worlds and their non-quest worlds. And we gave 1 to our partners at Temple. And they ended up with 2 quest worlds. So they gave us, so we basically did a swap. And because Ministry doesn't have its own content to push, what we're using ours for is to push avatar creators that they have optimized avatars. You'd be shocked just how good a green avatar can look. If any, in my personal opinion, I think optimized avatars look a lot better because they're less noisy. The ones that have all that noise, they were topologized correctly, and so because of that limitation, the creativity flew. But we have shout outs to our past events. I can't get into it too much because I honestly didn't hear back from Lund, so I don't know how much I can really get into. So I'll just talk about what Ministry is involved in at VKet. But between one of our booths and some of our partners, we are going to be involved with Music VKet this year. And I'm very ecstatic about that because Music VKet is going to be Music VKet 6. We did a huge campaign in the beginning to try to get a bunch of signups. What a lot of people who do know about VKet don't realize is that their global team is much smaller compared to Hickey, and they're really trying to dive into the Western market, which they should, and we want them to. We want them here. Whether you know what they are, have your opinions about them, good or bad, trust me, we want them here, and they want to be here. So we made a huge push for that, and a lot of people don't realize, especially talking about like the DJ thing a little while ago, we've had Camellia come perform in VRChat at Music VKet. The Teriyaki Boys, you know, that song from Tokyo Drift that we all know so iconically, that's they came to Music VKet and performed in VRChat. They did collaborations with Method Man and the Wu-Tang Clan. Music VKet is a very beautiful thing, and so we're working with our partners at Schism, Hypothetical, Temple, and a few others. Cozy Club's going to be helping with instancing. And so throughout the 2 weeks of VKet, we're going to be doing a lot of promotional trains leading into that day. Ministry is working with Quantum Networks. Now, this is their spearhead because we have our own, which I'll mention in a minute. Quantum Networks is kind of like a mecca of nexus for Quest compatibility and clubs that want to do well in VR. I recommend checking them out. But they're working with Slime. And so we're going to be providing resources to Quantum Networks because we're not actually affiliated with Slime, but they are. So we're going to be doing 3 events with them throughout the time of VKet. They're all going to be club events, very, very powerful things. So keep an eye out for those because, as we all know, Slime is an up-and-comer in the hardware community, and they do have events within VR. Some of them have flopped, some of them have done great, but hey, again, like in the beginning of the conversation, find me your best, biggest company with the best DJs on a bankroll, and we'll watch them have 20 people. But no, it's an honor to get to work with them, with Quantum Networks and meet these people. What I'm really excited about is what we're doing, and we have a dance cipher and an AMA coming up with EOZ. Jason it has been super cool. And to kind of break this a bit, working with VKet or other companies, these are all still people. And I don't mean like, oh, haha, they're not like anime girls. I mean like literally like there's a human factor missing from the perception whenever we're talking about the VRChat devs or we're talking about Lun from VKet or Jason from EOZ, or any of our favorite club owners, right? We remove this human factor and kind of put on these rose-colored shades, and we're really hoping to show a human side of this because my favorite thing about EOZ is not their product, it's not what they're doing. It's the fact that when I got on a phone with Jason, he's a very busy guy because he's up there in the company, but texting him is like, does this guy want to give me the time of day? What's really going on? Blah, 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 blah. Am I going to get a response? But then when you get on the phone, he's personable. He's very excited to talk to you. EOZ started because they were hanging around like Shelter and a few other places. And they were like, we love this so much. We want to make it more comfortable for people. They understand that full body tracking is a huge part of the community. And to kind of barrel back on our previous discussion about etiquette and healthy lifestyles, FBT is the reason why a lot of people have exercise in VR. It's a huge way to become immersed and to kind of like turn off reality and come be healthy in here. And back in the day, we used to work out in our rooms and, be ready to go take our shirt off at the skate park or the beach. And, we'd go outside and look good. Now we're going outside to exercise, run around, do stuff, eat healthy, to come back inside where no one can see us so we can be fit in here. And it kind of takes the stigma. EOZ shares the mission of Ministry in the same way as a totally different entity. They're a company that makes straps and partners with communities to get FBT out there, and they make trackers. We promote people in the community outwards to try to make VR grow. That's how we're different. How we're same is we're both addicted to creating situations where the VR lifestyle can become augmentative to you in a healthy choice. The amount of people who there's a huge stigma that when you put on the headset, like we've all seen that avatar running around where it's like a big fat guy with the old school Vive on, and he's got the thing dragging around his PC on a dolly, and he's just like, dancing around. That's fantastic. That guy's living his best, and more power to him. But what's really happening with the FBT landscape in VR is people are becoming fit. They're experiencing the runner's high for the first time. They're becoming addicted to exercise in all different types of ways. And sometimes that can be bad. All addictions are bad, but that's a pretty, as a tier list, I think I'd rather be addicted to exercise than other stuff. And FBT is a great way to do that. So on the 13th, I'll just say the day, keep an eye out for our promotions, but we're going to be doing an AMA where we're going to have different communities come and ask questions, just like me and you were doing here, for Jason. It's either going to be Jason or his partner, Brandon. who he works with. And then right after that, we're going to be doing a dance cipher with our partners at Temple. So you can come dance with us. And for those of you who don't know what a cipher is, it's literally just you play some music, everyone stands in a circle. There is no format. You just throw down, right? If you're a ballet dancer, do some twirls. You're a break dancer, do a flip. You like some salsa stuff, show up and do your little DDDs and just have a good time. And then that's going to lead into another event later that night with QN. But all of these things we're going to be pushing very hard into the next because VKet is 2 weeks long. VKet is it is the biggest virtual market in the world, period. Go figure, it's literally called virtual market. Taha. But they work very, very hard to make sure that people that run with them are promoted. And the only reason they actually started charging for their booths isn't they're not charging for their booths, but when they do a lottery system, there is no nepotism. It's completely impossible for them to handpick. Lun has to apply. He's the technical director for Hickey. He still has to apply and join the lottery to get a booth. He's not always guaranteed a booth, and he's literally Mr. VKet. So we got very lucky with our 3 booths, and we've been handing out real estate off of those to our partners and to other creators. That's the same spiel. Basically, they've had some VKets in the past where people would sign up and then just not do anything. And so when the day came, they just had a white cube. And so if you do get into VKet this summer, when you get pulled for the lottery, you have, I think it's like a 2-week window to come up with 3,300 yen, which is a very small amount of money. They don't need that money. They have corporate sponsors. They have car companies. They got like Sony. They got all these people that they work with. The government of Japan, retweets their stuff. They don't need your money. That's literally just there to say, hey, you put $20 on it, you're probably going to show up and actually upload your content. But anyone who doesn't know what VKet is, start asking questions to anyone you've ever heard say it. It is one of the biggest tools that VRChat can use to create more users. That's why I assume that's why they partner. And when we did Summerfest with VRChat themselves, and when we did the last 2 VKets we did, I'm really excited for this one because it's our first time having so much involvement, especially in music VKet, which again already did the thing everyone's trying to do. Let's bring in big names and create a bunch of buzz.
Right.
It's happened. It is possible. Now's the time.
Do you ever think that I'm getting ahead of myself. I really want to ask the question, but I want to paint the picture a little bit, especially from people that have been in VRChat for such a long time. VKet is such a pinnacle time because it kind of feels like Christmas for us. We get to go in and run around and be like, oh, look at the bright lights and look at the cool thing, and I get to be a part of this. And I even remember there was a time where they even had business contacts with Disney, and Disney had a big old thing in here, but they really had to knuckle down their legalese to make sure that that their IPs were pretty good. Do you ever find that it gets a little overwhelming sometimes that you do have a lot of big companies come in, and we'll go ahead and announce it again. EOZ again, really big for the VRChat community, providing comfortable straps, as well as really getting engaged into the community and their wants and needs to feel comfortable while also providing a really good service within our group. Do you ever find it kind of intimidating for those people that actively want to come in here and want to run with the big boys, but feel like they don't have enough notoriety to play with VKet?
So here's my favorite and least favorite part about that. That stigma only exists up here. The way we got with EOZ isn't because, Ministry's partnering with these big clubs and we have this big dance team and No, it's because one of our dancers just happened to know Jason and was nice enough to put us in a group chat. And me and Jason apologized to each other for almost 6 months for constantly missing each other until we met. Same thing with Lun. When I met Lun, it's not because VKet was like, wow, Ministry, you're doing some stuff. Peppercast brought us to one of the music VKets because they needed some backup dancers, and I needed to get to Sky, their lead, about a dancer swap that was it wasn't happening right. I needed to basically get confirmation about something. So I'm banging on this invisible wall that I didn't know was there the last time, and this person's like, why do you need to get in here? And I was like, I need to talk to them. I'm one of the leads. And then I turn and I see this name Lun, and I literally say to him, I'm like, hey, I've heard your name before. I don't know why I'm supposed to know you, but who are you? And he kind of was confused and was like, I'm he basically said he's Mr. VKet, and I was like, oh, well, hi. And I'm not exaggerating. When we worked with the VRChat team on their event, that was because I just happened to turn a corner at the right time and talk to Kui from Schism, who we're already partnered with. Same thing with Schism. We got working with them just because Ambrosia was playing a set at Hypo and we were dancing there that night. These are bigger companies, and it is intimidating to look at them and see them operate. But the reason why you need caution with them is they're a big ship, right? The bigger a ship gets, so once you get into a container ship, you spend 5 to 10 minutes putting everything in, and then you wait for the ship to turn, and then 5 to 10 minutes to make it go straight again. It's the same thing with companies. It's not like a small one where it's a boat, it can just go back and forth. But talking to them, people, they're just people. Like there is no, you got to make sure your tie is clean. You got to make sure your avatar is ready. Obviously, TOS and NSFW stuff aside, that's a given. I hope that's a given. If you have any confusion on that stuff, figure that out before you talk to any brands. But it's intimidating, but it shouldn't be, because when you finally talk to these people, they probably want to talk to you more than you want to talk to them. They love this scene. They don't do this for money. They have to do it for money to a degree. They need money to operate, but they're not trying to get into anyone's pockets. They want to see you grow. And this is something I say a lot, actually, and I'll just only speak to ministry on this. Let's pretend I'm some creep who just wants to make a secret Patreon someday and exploit everyone I've ever worked with. The most effective way for me to do that is to make sure that you're loved, respected, and have the tools you need to succeed. That is the best way for me to be a greedy douchebag. And it's the same thing for them. No matter how we're looking at this, if you see a team, whether it be a corporate company or a sponsor or an affiliate you want to work with, if you like their mission statement, you like their product, and they're being human with you, don't be intimidated. Just do it. Just bother them. If they say bother me, but I'm busy, don't feel bad and don't bother them. Listen to them. Lund literally has it in his status. Ping me twice. He wants you to harass him because just like myself, his DMs get buried within an hour. He will get back to you. But he's a busy guy, so it can look intimidating. These things you should not let stop you. The scene is way too small right now to get missed, so as long as you're making noise, you will be seen. And once you get there, you'll kind of have it wash over you like, wow, this actually isn't that scary. And then now you're making those moves, and you can tell your peers how to make those moves, and then it grows.
We're sitting here with VRCDJLIVE talking with Skoot of Ministry Promotions. We're kind of talking about VKet coming up in the next couple of weeks and their ministry's involvement with a boatload of different things that are coming to the convention, if you will. We might as well call it a convention. It is a market, but it is more a convention for us. I kind of want to continue on this path of, again, not being too timid, not being too afraid to talk to a lot of these upcoming businesses because they want to work with you as much as you want to work with them. I think I kind of want to know your opinion on the popularity growth and where you would see yourself popular in this game. And I'm going to try to refine this as much as possible. There are a lot of people, and there's a lot of intimidation in this game, in this simulation. I can't really call it a game, it's a simulation where we get to talk to some of these big companies, and we get to test out some of the latest technologies, and maybe even be able to fund a lot of these technologies. But for the people on the outside looking in, they're just thinking, oh, we're playing a video game. Oh, you're not going to be as popular as whatever the Zuckerberg is doing, with metaverse and stuff like that. So one of the key challenges when it comes to VKet and promoting and getting an understanding of the things that we do compared to what you tell your grandma or your parents, that you get to play an anime girl in VRChat. How does that transition between wanting to be professional, but being professional and popular within a small limitation bubble that is VR compared to something as big as Taylor Swift, for example, that's just kind of national, like worldwide known?
Well, I don't know anything about Taylor Swift. I've never met her. I probably never was.
That's you're better off, but at the same time, yeah. I mean, I would assume that you know who Taylor Swift is to even start this question.
100%. To the point where I can confidently say, in terms of who thought out this winter, I'm definitely Team Michael Bublé. But
there you go.
I guarantee that if you end up in an elevator with Taylor Swift, she'd be more weirded out if you were silent and scared versus, oh my God, are you Taylor Swift? That's so cool. Nice to meet you. People, they're still people. popularity, clout. Actually, I'm going to try to answer your question by answering something else. I don't think clout exists. I think it's a dead word. I don't think it's ever existed. I think it's a mental social cancer in terminology that we need to let go of, because when we try to follow it, it doesn't work. But let's say we change the word clout in most sentences with persistence.
What about gatekeeping? What about that word? Is that a more popular word?
Well, yes and no. That'll actually tie into this, right? So, and I think gatekeeping is a great way to stifle yourself. And if you are those cool people and you start gatekeeping, congratulations. You'll never get above where you are. That's just my opinion. I don't care what we're talking about, inside or outside of VR. Gatekeeping is the stupidest thing anyone can do in any form of entertainment. But anyways, what gives someone clout, right? Like doing stuff, being the person who did the thing. I worked with that guy or this team. That happens from persistence, right? Muzz didn't walk up to his daycare center knowing how to run a CDJ 3000, right? He didn't, that's not how that worked. He spent years practicing his craft. He took his L's, he took it to the chin. Same thing with Sorry, right? Sorry didn't show up a perfect, let's please book Sorry. Thank God we got Sorry. He played a disgusting amount of sets alone, not even trying. He's literally like, I'm just a guy. If he was here right now, he'd be like, please stop talking about me. I'm just a guy. But it's because he's a sweetheart, because he knows it's where he comes from. These things are persistence. It's our trade. It's the same thing with ministry. Ministry is only effective because we have been doing this constantly for 6 years. Ministry is 2 years old, but the people in it, myself included, like me and a lot of the people that I've built it with, have been here since 2019, 2018. So this persistence is what builds what someone might call clout. But when let's go to the term clout chaser, right? We've seen it 100 times. Someone latches to someone else and they succeed in that, right? They're leeching and they're doing well. But every time, like clockwork, the moment they're on their own, they fizzle. And that's because there was no persistence. So the word clout, I don't think actually works in a lot of these. I don't think popularity, because I'm actually very unpopular. Believe it or not, I aggravate the hell out of people around me constantly. I have really hard takes. I don't care who hears them. And I care about my team above all else, because my team is my ability to be efficient. So if we're doing something I don't like, I'm the first one in the room to say it. And if you've asked me to help you with your logistics and I see you not saying it because you don't want to offend someone, don't worry, homie. I'll offend everyone for you. So I'm actually unpopular, but a lot of people are hearing that right now and probably in chat being like, what? No, you're not. Yes, I am, but I'm effective. I have my persistence. And so you could say, well, Skoot's popular, because someone who doesn't like me will walk right up and be like, hey, Skoot, how are you today? And I'll do the same thing to them, even if I don't like them either, because that's how we have to be. So I think that when thinking about things, if you're afraid of not being popular enough to get something done, to the best of your ability, I know it's hard, toss that to the wind. Just get that out of your head. If you're worried about clout, eliminate that word from your vocabulary. It is dumb. And if you catch someone in your sphere gatekeeping, don't see that as an obstacle. See that as an opportunity, because anytime I've seen, we'll use dancing for an example. If you do you can only dance with us if you're here, or there, you're just kneecapping yourself. And I'll give a great example. One of our best dancers, Lexi Dabbs, she's a sweetheart. She has the worst imposter syndrome out of anyone I've ever met. Actually, second worst. Fluffy has that. And Fluffy's another one. They both are dancers that have grown. They become promoters. Lexi has danced with Calibrate and Tube. Fluffy's joined a few other teams. She's a staff now. But back in the day, they didn't know how to dance. And I just said, come have fun, right? Lexi showed up, and she's an excellent leader. She's built for all different types of stuff I'm not. But she wasn't good for hosting, and all the homies were hosting, and so she was getting into that and getting stressed out. But she came to us and started dancing. She didn't know how to dance. She had these goofy, clunky little movements, right? And I told her, she was like, hey, Skoot, can I come dance? I don't really know how. And I said, I don't care. Just come have fun. Because of that, fast forward 8 months, She got the runner's high. She started picking up pace. She was meeting people. It became part of her lifestyle. And these goofy, clunky movements became refined, unique motion she could never teach you because they come from her walk of life, not yours. And that became one of our strongest high-tempo dancers that we have today. Now, let's say back in the day I said, hey, Lexi, no problem. Give me 2 weeks, though, to get another set of dancers in here so we have a leg to stand on. She'd say, yeah, no problem, Skoot, and she would have never come and dance. We'd have one less fantastic dancer on our team, and so would those other teams. And all of us as a collective would have a lot less because Lexi's a big reason we succeeded in a lot of events that got us to where we are today. So if you see someone gatekeeping, if you're competitive to those people, be thankful because they're making a mistake that you should never make. And no matter how much bigger than you they are, no matter how much backing they have, if they're gatekeeping, they're stifling, period. They're at 20% of what they could be. You should never gatekeep. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen anyone do in this scene.
Especially, I know we don't like to go back in time, especially the people that do join in on 2022. We try to bring back nostalgia of back in the day, and they're just like, they're like, wait a minute, VRChat happened before 2022? That's crazy. Yeah. It's gonna drive me a little nuts back there, but you know, we kind of go back there. But we do like to go back in history. We do like to bring up those moments of either gatekeeping or clout because it was pretty aggressive. Obviously, we do like to put it into the ground. But it's still something that we kind of need to continue to talk about. And while it's not a problem, it can ramp up to become a problem. And for us as a community, especially for those that are hobbyists trying to become professional and they want to have that resume of being able to talk to companies, it can be a little overwhelming to see how some of these companies, while they are much larger companies, and there are a lot of things that we use within these companies to aid in our success, we do have to continuously remain humble. And I think that's one of the things that I've been reading in the chat right now as we are live on Twitch. That they've been saying is just that, Skoot, you're the man. You know, you're the guy that got some really positive energy, and you want to try to remain humble in this entire scenario. But we also kind of have to go back and forth on how it is to be humble and be able to tell people to remain to be humble. And especially, I'm not saying that VKet is a product of having a bunch of businesses and being able to put on your business suit to kind of talk to these larger things, but we are still in the arena of, you know, oh, I have a partnership with this. Hopefully that doesn't make you a much larger content creator or someone that you shouldn't be able to not talk to, especially if we're all in it together. Yeah.
So if you look at our Discord, we have barely 1,000 users. Our group's doing pretty good, and we barely use it, so we're very lucky for that. In the beginning of this sign-up setup, Music VKet is like Comic VKet. It's not the main thing, and it's a love. It's the product. It's Lun's baby, right? Now we made a huge difference, and Lun was very grateful for the help. Same thing with HorrorCon, right? Like we got a lot of shout-outs for the media we did for them. Now we're here, we're talking, people know us, we know ministry is effective, right? But let's say someone who doesn't come in here walked up to ministry and was like, only 1,000 users in your Discord, you barely have discovery. They'd walk right past us. That form of gatekeeping, that like if Lun looked at that and walked away, he would not have gotten the help from us. We wouldn't get the help from him. Like that's it, for VKet, for example. Sometimes their lobbies when they're doing world hops are 16 people. Is that enough to tell, like if that's enough for you to say I shouldn't look at them, I'm too popular? You just said no to the biggest opportunity that there is for marketing in VRChat to date. That mentality should be dropped. Maybe when we have like millions of users, then you can be like, all right, we're the few thousand, right? We're super exclusive. Then we can talk about that. But right now, you're exclusive for existing. We gotta grow before anyone can even pretend to be cool enough to gatekeep.
What's even funnier about that entire scenario, too, is that I think it was this year alone that I got to see that there is an IRL VKet happening in Japan, and it's happening December 20th through the 22nd. And you would never think about it like that. I mean, obviously, we've been in here for a while. Virtual market has been around for ages. And for people to come in here, and as you were saying earlier, too, that the Western culture just never really got into it until we started to get into it. And now we've got into it. We're like, wait a second. People in Japan know what they're doing. You know, they're actually setting this up, either making some money or some really good business practices with this. But being able to explain this to mom and pop, or even grandma, grandpa, your aunts and uncles, maybe they're a little clueless about this. So I guess the next question would be is, while we're still trying to remain professional and we're still trying to do business, there's still a lot of people in VRChat that have never done business before. What do you think would aid in their successes, especially going in? I mean, we don't have a virtual business card that we can hand off. Like, what do you think is a good etiquette for a virtual market in a scenario where you do want to promote yourself?
Stay exactly like that. To never take yourself serious or too serious. Obviously, we got to be presentable, right? If you're TOS compliant and you're not being obnoxious, you're done. You need to consider yourself ready to talk to those professionals. I've seen Lun, and I've seen Castle, and I've seen Queef from Schism. I've seen all these people who work with brands and companies. They light up the most when they're talking to someone new. They love new blood. They love that. And if you want to talk to people like that, you need to just walk up to them. That's it. The etiquette of being professional is at its core to be effective, right? If you're posturing a bunch, you're burning energy to do that. And that's energy that could have been spent in a very passionate conversation when you got there, right? There should be no mask at all when talking with these people, because I can promise you, and Queef's a great example, right? Like, if we're going, like, kind of going back to the clout thing, if you're so cool, your club is so fantastic, you're such hot stuff, if you're actually that guy, and this is just my personal experience, you don't have time to talk about it. You'll never hear Lun going off about how tight he is. Queef doesn't talk about Schism events and other people's lobbies as much as he can. Skippy doesn't do it. Skippy's fantastic because he talks about his events on like a cycle when he's out and about, and he's promoting his team and what they do. If you listen to him, he's not rambling. There's always a target that he goes back to for the whole night. When you're that guy, you're too busy. So these people are too busy to care about posturing. If you show up to the table to talk and you want to be taken serious, just be real. Just be patient. Speak clearly. Don't put on this big show. Don't treat them like gods. They get that enough. Just take off your rose-colored shades, wear a t-shirt and some running shoes, and you're good to go. I keep going back to this. We need to, like, especially in like IRL corporate like environments, you're going to wear your suit to the interview for a week into the workflow. And then just like everyone else, your shirt's going to be stained, your lunch is going to be old on your desk, and your boss is going to be there for 4 hours of his shift every day, 3 days out of the 5-day week. Like we gotta abandon. If I could beat something out of the scene today with a magic baseball bat, it would be this addiction to trying to over-professionalize themselves, because in that pursuit, they're removing their professionalism. Just literally, it's just talk to people like people. Like, I cannot stress this enough. The number one way to get involved with companies, the number one way these companies are going to, anyone listening to this wondering, how can I get involved with these VRChat clubs? Walk up to them. Abandon this cloudy crap about talking to each other and who's going to be where and why and who's worth my time. Everyone's worth your time, and just assume that everyone's worth your time and you're worth everyone's time. And just keep logging on. It will happen. The scene's small enough to where if you just keep joining off new people, you'll trip and fall. And I'm not going to get into details because we're on Twitch, but I was in a drinking night. I don't like drinking nights, but I went to one because of one of my friends I hadn't seen in a while, and I was trying to get them to come back to my party. They couldn't because they found a questie they really wanted to help hook up to their PC. I got involved because I have an IT background and I love doing this, and it was a new user. I helped this MF get their quest. It took me an hour and a half, and then I brought them to a VIP area just so that the crowd wasn't too much for them, and we were talking, and they're like, oh, well, I'm a streamer, maybe you heard of me, and I'm not going to name drop because they're an adult actress, but this person has 90 million views per video on their content, and they were fumbling around with a quest in a drinking night. There is no, well, I'm in this instance, so I'm going to meet people because I'm in this life. It's not going to happen. It might. I guess it helps to be in a room with people who have more experience than you, but your number one thing is going to be just be approachable and don't be afraid to approach someone. Just like abandon this framework that we have to step into line before we're ready to talk to someone. If you're both in the instance, walk up and say hi. Just don't interrupt them mid-sentence.
What kind of advice would you give for the timid DJ that's looking to network?
So that's hard because they're timid, right? The number one hurdle is speaking up, but that's it. Just spin. Someone like Skippy will hear you and go, "That's sick, dude. You should come play." And places like Hypothetical are fantastic because, they'll book people like Ambrosia and Owo, and they'll have Smiles and Wiggles and Sorry, and then you'll have a DJ who started last week on that same lineup.
So
it's a perfect melting pot.
So you would kind of say that, like, we do need to, I mean, I feel like this is just general knowledge that we would have to take just a little time out of our day to kind of go and talk to our favorite DJs or even go watch one of our favorite DJs, or even, go on the timeline and just kind of go up and down the timeline to try to figure out, who's doing what, where, and how.
If you think it looks cool, go talk to it. You're going to miss 100% of the swings you don't take.
Yeah, it's just as simple as that, really. And that I feel
and
like
I know that's really disenchanting to hear, but like at the end of the day, that the number one thing that's gotten Ministry to where it was is by not being like, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk to them. That was our first mistake. I was afraid to talk to Poseidon. I was afraid to talk to Calibrate until we got to a point, and that point was being able to multi-instance because I just had this rose-colored shade on. And when we got there, I showed up 2 instances strong, and these teams were like, bro, we got our own stuff going on. We don't get the bandwidth for that. And I was like, oops, well, I guess we do now. And there we were.
I feel like this is a good opportunity that anybody that wants to go to VKet this year, you should probably approach Skoot and ask all the questions and ask all the stuff about Ministry, because at some point in time, I mean, even you would even want to get a bunch of people on your staff, and you want people that are hungry or thirsty. They want to know about more about promotions and stuff like that. Speaking of which, I kind of want to, I know we're running a little bit out of time, and those people that are in the chat, you're more than welcome to ask your questions at any given time. We do have about 15 minutes left of the program, so feel free to drop it in the chat. Any questions that you have coming up about VKet, about what we've talked about on the show today, or just, I don't know, maybe you want to know more about Skoot's horns, or the way that they dress, or we don't know. I mean, obviously, Skoot was even asking me about my avatar today, and I'm just sitting here like, I don't know, man. It's just she's a rocker, so that's kind of just what happens. But obviously, any questions you have in the chat, feel free to ask, and of course, you can always ask Skoot a little bit later. But talking a little bit more about Ministry promotions, and especially as we're leading into another year and another thing of things down the pipeline. Obviously, you want to do some more interviews. Obviously, some of your multimedia on social media has been phenomenal, and the fact that we want to continue to push, you want to push promotions for other things. What do you think is going to be the most important thing for Ministry promotions in the future, maybe even to 2025, that you want to start to promote, whether it be multimedia, doing more social media? What's going on? What do you think is going to be happening next year?
We're gonna be hard in the club scene regardless. That's where our bread and butter is. That's where we have fun. That's where our friends are. It's where we get to dance. But I'm really trying to push us. So the HorrorCon thing, we weren't actually officially with HorrorCon. I got into a meeting with Carrot and Wolveeps, and asked, hey, can we do some promotion for you just for the sake of it? And what we did was, basically, I set a no expectation bar with permission to operate, so that way I could stress test our media team, and I kind of put us against the wall. And I plan to do that a lot more, because things like PJKT, HorrorCon, or VKet, at the end of the day, Ministry's whole purpose for existing is to try to generate new users and make life easier for companies coming in that will fall on their face because what works IRL doesn't work here. People, like you just said, are timid or don't know what to do. Like, come talk to me or one of our prefects. We'll get you in line and we'll get you going. At the end of the day, you got to carry your own weight, but we'll at least show you what direction so you're not walking uphill to an empty field. What I plan to do with Ministry is grab more of those opportunities. I think we're pretty locked in with the club scene. People like us, those who don't are still polite to us. But I really want to see more. We just did something with the Midnight Opera, which is more performative. We are doing more stuff. We're definitely going to be doing a lot more with Temple. We partnered with them at the beginning of the year, and I've been so busy, and Blind and his team have been so gracious and patient with my BS. But we're definitely going to be focusing hard on creating a environment within ministry for new users. If you show up on Desky and you have questions like that, that's why our affiliate links are built the way we are. That's why our event structure is set up how it is. We want to essentially be a breeding ground for new users. So we're hoping to do more cons. We want to get into more creative stuff. We want to do more media. And if anyone has anyone listening right now that has thought about dancing or doing media, please hit us up. Yeah, we have a lot of people, but we need a lot more people. And so do our partners. So
I was
definitely
noticing.
expanding.
I was noticing on your Discord that you do have affiliate links for certain things that could aid in your VR journey in your careers, and kind of those have been around for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us real quick about like getting those types of affiliate things, and I feel like a lot of the time we miss out on those types of opportunities, especially for someone that's looking to promote the whole existence, really.
So I think that if you have traction at all and you believe in what you're doing, just start hammering for affiliates. We're not cool for having those. Every single one of those affiliates. So I wanted to get us a website when I was still contracting, and that hasn't happened yet because I'm not gonna I will not monetize ministry out of the scene. It will only be from outside in, and that's slowly happening. But anyways, we don't have the website yet. But when we were positioned to get it, I wanted to make sure we had something to populate it with more than an event calendar. I spent a month just playing email tag with AIs and probably very jaded, company reps that are just sending me templates. And that's how we got those affiliate links. Real talk. Per the conversation a moment ago about how do we be professional and come out of our shell? These things are easy to grab. And the reason we grab these, again, is so VR Cover is a great example. They make a lot of aftermarket stuff for the Quest and the Pico and the Index. They make battery packs. We have a link up there that anyone can get if they own a Quest to basically say, hey, because ministry is not a person or a club, so if you use our link to get your free $30 with the Meta Quest store, just DM me. And it's all written there with the link, like, hey, how do I add you on Meta? And then you'll add me, and then we also get $30 for the store, and we'll just buy you whatever you want. And that way you get it twice, right? Just little things like that. But anyone who wants those affiliates should click the link and then go to contact us and just start playing email tag. And with enough brute forcing, you will get them. And the reason why I push that isn't because, hey, come check out our affiliates, please. If you want to go check those out, do so. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, but we need these are secrets that aren't secrets. People don't know this stuff exists. And when they sometimes, I know when I looked at VR Cover, I was like, this looks so generic and sketchy, until I started looking at each product and I was like, okay, this is thought out stuff. And it's kind of like the old school 90s websites that are still doing good today. You look at them and you're like, is this going to infect my computer? But no, it's one of the greats. And it's the same spiel.
It's fun to see that too. Is you don't normally get to see that until it happens. Is kind of like when you go to the convenience store and you end up getting a free thing after buying a thing, and you're like, "Oh, happy day! I get that's a W for the day." I know one of the other things about the Discord that I really enjoyed is the fact that you have your own little section for the groups that you help promote, and you also kind of bring in a lot of other groups that are looking to get the ministry standard, the ministry gold standard. Do you see more groups approaching you daily, frequently? Are you having to reach out to people to be like, hey, this is what we do or what we offer?
Yes and no. So I put a lot of handcuffs on ministry. As you notice, we have a very small amount of DJs. Go figure. This is they're gonna be, we're like, how'd you have them on the show? We actually turn down DJs constantly because we want to make sure that the DJs we work with have all of our resources. So to kind of prevent us from ending up with 200 DJs we'll never book, because ministry is rarely who books the DJs. When you DJ with us, you get to use our dancers at your events, and we also get you onto things like Music VKet or different cons or portals and blah, blah, blah. So we have two partnership tiers. We have our official or strategic partnership tier, and literally 9 out of 10 of them, we end up seeing less the second we partner because we're just working on stuff. That'd be like Rift, schism, hypothetical. These are more structured for how can we work together to grow our mission versus we're cool and love each other. Let's promote each other. The more traditional Discord follow Discord for the sake of doing stuff together, that's the community list here. And nothing in ministry, whether you're a dancer, media, a partner, there's no higher or lower. Everything's augmentative. We don't place value on anything above anything else. Everything has a reason to exist and a value to have. But for example, we have GearFest coming up. And without getting into that too much, we do have EOZ interested in helping out. We just got to make sure the ducks align. Flair did tell me I'm allowed to say that we're going to be trying to collaborate with VRChat on that like we did for Summerfest, which sounds super intimidating, and it can be when you don't know what you're looking at. So what I've actually been doing, and this is something we do with all of our partners, is I make them kick me from their Discord and then let me rejoin. And one of them on there is for GearFest is the Collective. Now, the Collective is a hub done by Asian Menace, and he's a goofball. You know, we all have our opinions about him. I love the guy. I think he's all right. You know, he's green, but he's a good guy. But his whole thing is collabs. He just loves to get everyone into his venue to collab. He wants to see them grow with each other. You know, he just flings out the dancer role like crazy. If you dance, you have dancer above your head the next time you show up. And he has a NSFW section in his Discord. Now, again, he's green. The guy's very professional. He's very smart. He knows what he's doing. But before I actually got to it for the GearFest piece, one of our other partners that we're doing a collab with them with was like, hey, why isn't this gated? And so what I was able to, again, I had him kick me from the Discord. I went through. I noticed I could see things off the rip. He immediately asked, hey, how do I fix that then? He now has a bot in place, and you cannot see any of that 18 plus content until he physically approves you. And it sounds like that's a lot of people when you see Discords with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, but it's really not that much work. So in terms of when you partner with ministry, we don't force anything on you, and we're not going to like make you do anything. But before the partnership, you know, clicks, we're going to ask you like, how many events have you done with us? What do you know, how do you do stuff? And then I'm going to kind of secret shop you a little bit. The benefit of that is now that we've done the process, when I talk to Flair or I talk to Gear or I talk to Lun or I talk to whoever else we work with, I can bring you in and there's less questions asked. And automatically, like we do have a lot of scale with when we talk to people. If one of our dancers reaches out to someone about dancing, I've been told a dozen times, like, oh, you're with ministry? Here's your role. Which I'm against. I don't think you should do that. You know, we're capable of making mistakes. I'm sure we're going to make plenty. We have made plenty. But because of that, that's why we keep that fresh. Partnering with ministry, like that's our cue of, okay, we have a big collab. We need 10 communities. We're going to start with the people we vetted and know how they work. And in turn, you know, that gives people who come to ministry, say I'm talking to someone at an IRL convention or a concert, and they're like, oh, how do I get into these groups? I can be like, oh yeah, well, we have like Totsi, who's like good with the shaders over at Deviate and Beat Syndicate. Rift is Quest compatible. Schism's Quest compatible. Oh, you like dancing and stuff like that? You should go check out Cozy Club and and Club Ascension, and we go through like that. So again, the whole point of ministry isn't to be like, you know, we're cool, look how big we are. It's please, if you're new to VR, find us, please. Tell us all the new people you have so we can educate them on how to find these things, and then kick them out of the door and let them go find their own path now that they're armed with some tools, products, and understanding of how to navigate in the space.
You know, I find it a little cheeky because for someone that spends all of your time promoting other people, you've done an absolutely fantastic job promoting yourself without me asking all the questions and having people want to know, because I think what in reality, I think a lot of people need to realize, especially in the scene, especially whether you're green or you're just starting or even looking to help raise more awareness of your resume. A lot of people have a hard time building their professional resumes or even wanting to go professional or do really good things based on the traits that they have. You have done what I believe has been the impossible for an individual who wants to grow on their own, by literally telling everyone right now that you're helping them build a resume a really good resume, a business resume that could aid in further success down the road, whether it is talking business or getting a more professional gig in VRChat or a professional booking compared to the average, I'm going to take whatever I can grab. So kudos to you to just sit there and actually just explain that whole process to everybody, because what's so shocking to me, and I think a lot of people in chat right now are pretty shocked about it, despite the fact that, again, like we started this stream and this interview with ministry not like being everywhere, but not being the forefront of everything, sure do a lot for the community to build up. And that's all I've been hearing in chat is just like, ministry has been a fantastic place and a fantastic an area for dancers and for DJs and understanding DJs and finding those business connections, and also providing an avenue where people are timid and want some business reflection or looking for partnerships or affiliates with other business companies. So I think you've done everything you could, and you've said it all like in just a few moments here. And again, I wish I had a little bit of a clap like sound effect to give you to just kind of showcase the fact that there are a ton of people in VRChat currently that really want to grow within their expertise of DJing, maybe even want to become a VJ or a promoter or something in multimedia, but haven't found an actual alcove that could aid in their success. So what I would recommend is anyone in chat right now looking to kind of get an upper hand on their expertise, looking for more business savviness, as well as and especially now with VKet coming up, this is a perfect opportunity for you to get like a few steps ahead, especially for the new users that are coming into VRChat, which we don't want to talk about at the same time they're coming in. But you're going to want to take those couple of steps forward and go talk to Skoot and talk to a lot of the people in the Discord, because again, just as we've stated on this program just moments ago, that a lot of the groups have affiliations within ministry, that a lot of these groups do have affiliations within the Discord. So this is kind of a very pinnacle time, and again, hats off to you and your team, because you've been working hard all year showcasing the fact that we've had all these great events and all these great DJs and all these great talent coming in, but there's actually a place that will help aid in your success.
One thing I'd like to point out on that is we don't self-promote, but our team works really hard, and they follow me blind, because sometimes we'll be handling NDAs, or as we know, the club scene can be very dramatic and there can be a lot of problems. And so sometimes we have to operate in a silence where I'm like, we go here, ask me why later. But I'd like to thank you for having me, because you did point something out. I'm always talking about how we don't promote ourselves, and I'm pretty bad at self-promotion, but I can promote you to the stars. That's why VKet is something I wanted us to jump on. That's why I work very hard to get us, I got us on the Jumbotron last New Year's. I'm going to try again this year. And why I like to jump on shows like this, because my team works really, really hard. And my team is not comprised of like the root of ministry, right? They come from other communities. They come from their own walks of life. And what they bring tells me do's and don'ts that I can then lead us as a whole to do good with. And it's really hard for me to find opportunities to switch that gear and go, because we're not a club. That's not how we operate. So when it comes time to pat everyone on the back and say, you did a good job, we crushed it, we made a difference. So far, I haven't failed at that, I don't think, but it feels like it's hard, because it's hard for me to say, look how cool we are, and coming on shows like this to showcase the hard work that they, because I'm just a dude with, a pretty girl avatar with some opinions. That's all. That's it. Until my team comes into the picture, that's all I am. And it's very important that I have this team and that they trust me. And so thank you for letting me talk about them on your show, because this is one of the few niche times that I get to actually promote them and point at them directly and say, this is what they do, this is what we do. And that's the most valuable thing to me, is making sure that these people who work so hard to help other people are they feel represented, because all I'm doing is dragging them around the scene saying, let's go represent these people, let's go make them look cool. But like, they need that too, because they put in a lot of work.
Where can people find ministry promotions online?
Well, we have our Twitter. You can find us on Discord. We have a link tree. I would like to rattle those off, but I genuinely can't remember which one is Ministry Promotions VR, which one's Ministry Promo VR, which one's Minist. But we have a lot of links. So we are on Twitter. You can always find us there. Reach out to us on Twitter. Put in a ticket on the Discord. The tickets are there for no other reason than if you DM me, I want you to DM me. Please DM me. But know that my DMs get swamped because at least once a week I DM everyone on our team to wish them a goodwill. But I'm not ignoring you. Just like you'll see in Lund, like ping me twice, harass me. If you need me to respond, literally harass me. I live on red because otherwise it'd be bing, 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 bing. So the ticket is there with, applications that are templates. They're not fine in stone. You can make all the mistakes you want. Reach out through the Discord, put in a ticket. I will see that every single time. I might not respond, but I did see it. If you have a ticket in, you can save, unless you've asked for a response you need, I've seen it. But yeah, our Discord, our Twitter, you can find some of the stuff we've made on YouTube. And I'm trying to work on pointing out places we've been because a lot of our content isn't on our YouTube because it's not our content, it's other people's. We just helped Ritsuko with a music video. We just helped the Midnight Opera. In the past, we've helped Peppercast with IRL promotions on the VR side. So yeah, Twitter, Discord, YouTube, Linktree.
Skoot from Ministry Promotions, thank you so much for coming on VRCDJ Live.
Yay. Thanks for having us.
And of course, for all those people that are watching on Twitch, you can see some more highlights and replays of our show right here coming up very soon. I believe we're going to have a highlight of the show starting up tomorrow. We'll more than likely have the replay up on YouTube. Please go check all that out. We've got all of our content up there and tons more things coming, especially we can also announce that we too are going to be featured at VKet this year. So feel free that if you want to be a part of our program, VRC DJ Live, or learn more about our program, you'll be seeing us at Lund's booth this year at Virtual Market. Make sure that you're following us along here on Twitch. .tv/VRC DJ Live. We're going to be coming back next Thursday, believe it or not, at 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you are, for some reason, in America and you are celebrating Thanksgiving, please stick with us. We're going to be, it's going to be a pretty big interview with Merles and Cy of Subsystem. And we're going to be talking a lot about their program and a lot of their club and what they've got coming up down the pipeline. So please feel free to follow along here on VRC DJ Live. And for Skoot and the team, I'm Rob Roman. Good to have you guys, and thank you all so much for coming by. We'll see you next week.